I thought my brother was just being protective when he warned me about Rachel. I thought he was doing what big brothers do, stirring the pot, making sure nobody messed with me. I thought that right up until the afternoon I opened an old shoebox in his garage and found the letters. Letters from him and Rachel's ex, written 2 years into my relationship. That was the moment the ground cracked under my feet, and everything I thought I knew about love and family shifted. My name's Daniel. I'm 32 years old, the nice guy younger brother, the one who never picked a fight and always said thank you after Thanksgiving dinner. Rachel was supposed to be my fresh start. We met at the most cliché place you could imagine, a fall festival. You know, hay bales, kettle corn, overpriced cider. I was there with my coworkers, trying not to look as awkward as I felt. She was there with her friends, laughing that kind of easy laugh that makes people turn and look without even meaning to. We bumped into each other at the caramel apple stand. Literally. I was trying to dodge a kid with a balloon and ended up sloshing hot cider onto both of us. She laughed, said something about how at least it wasn't wine, and before I knew it, we were sharing a bench and talking like we hadn't just met. Rachel was sunshine bottled up in a person, blonde hair, quick wit, the kind of spirit that made everything feel just a little bit brighter. And me? I was fine. Not broken, not spectacular. Just the kind of guy who still helped old ladies load their groceries and said sir and ma'am without thinking about it. She made me feel like that was enough. Better than enough. Like it was something rare. We dated for a year before I even thought about proposing. I'm cautious like that. Always have been. I watched her around my friends, my family, my world, and everywhere she went, she seemed to fit so naturally it was like she'd been part of the picture all along. The only one who didn't seem thrilled was my brother, Adam. Adam's 5 years older than me, built like a linebacker who never quite lost his college muscle. Protective isn't even the right word for him. It's in his DNA. He's the guy who threw a punch at my junior prom date when she made me cry. The guy who sat in the waiting room all night when I had my wisdom teeth pulled just because he didn't trust anyone else to drive me home. When he met Rachel, he was polite. Not warm. Not hostile. Just guarded. At first, I figured it was the usual big brother skepticism. Nobody's good enough. Nobody's fast enough to dodge the invisible checklist he kept for the people allowed into my life. But as the months rolled on, his concern sharpened. He started making comments after family dinners. Things like, "You sure she's showing you all her cards?" Or, "You ever wonder what she's not saying?" Nothing concrete. Nothing I could pin him to. Just shadows thrown against the walls. I told him to back off. I told him Rachel loved me, and I loved her, and wasn't that enough? He nodded like he heard me, but I could see it in his eyes. He didn't believe it. Not fully. The final straw came the week before I proposed. We were sitting on his back porch, beers in hand, late October chill rolling in, when he said it. "You don't know her like you think you do, Dan." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I didn't know how else to respond. "She's not lying to me, Adam." He didn't argue. Didn't get defensive. He just said, real quiet, "I hope you're right." I left that night frustrated. Angry, even. I thought he couldn't stand the idea of me moving forward without needing him. So when I proposed to Rachel, I didn't tell him ahead of time. I wanted it to be mine. Just mine. She said yes. She cried and laughed and tackled me right there in the park where we had our first real date. It was perfect. At least, it felt perfect. If there were cracks under the surface, I didn't want to see them. I chose not to look too closely. And for a while, it worked. The engagement parties. The plans. The way she started calling my mom without hesitation. It worked until the afternoon I was helping Adam clean out his garage. It was just supposed to be a favor. He was moving to a smaller place across town, needed help sorting old boxes. We were knee-deep in dust and memories when I found it, tucked behind a stack of yearbooks and high school trophies. A plain shoebox. No label. Heavy with the weight of something that wasn't supposed to be found. I opened it without thinking. Inside, a handful of letters. On top, my name in Adam's handwriting. And beneath it, letters between Adam and someone else. Someone who signed off as C. Short messages. Secretive. And on the back of one, a name scrawled almost like an afterthought. Rachel's ex, Chris. The dates on the letters? 2 years into my relationship with Rachel. 2 years where Adam had been warning me. 2 years where I thought he was just being overprotective. My hands started shaking before my brain even caught up. Because in that instant, I realized. Adam hadn't been guessing. He'd known something. And he hadn't told me. Not fully. Not when it might have mattered most. I didn't confront Adam right away. I wish I could tell you I marched across the garage, letters in hand, demanding answers like some righteous hero. But the truth is, I just stood there for a while, shoebox open, heart thudding against my ribs, feeling like a kid who just realized the grown-ups had been lying all along. Adam was only a few feet away, sorting tools into piles, humming under his breath, oblivious. Or maybe not. Maybe he knew exactly when I'd find it. I slipped the letters back into the box, closed it like it might bite. Then, after a long pause, I tucked it under my arm and carried it to my car. It felt wrong to leave it behind. Then I helped him finish sorting. Quiet. Mechanical. Every movement weighed down by the knowledge sitting heavy in my chest. Later that night, after I got home, I sat on the couch with the box on my lap. Rachel was working late, some corporate event she said she couldn't skip. I had time. Time and questions. A dangerous combination. I opened the first letter addressed to me. It wasn't long. Just a few lines in Adam's blunt, no-nonsense handwriting. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't find another way to tell you. I tried, Danny. God knows I tried. But sometimes love makes you a coward, even the kind that's supposed to protect you. Just know I wasn't trying to hurt you. I was trying to save you from the kind of hurt that changes a man. I sat there for a long time after reading that, turning those words over and over. Love makes you a coward. The next morning, I called Adam. Told him to meet me at the diner near his old place, the one we used to go to as kids when Mom couldn't afford much more than pancakes and bottomless coffee. He showed up late, wearing that same leather jacket he'd had since college, the one that smelled like motor oil and rain. He slid into the booth across from me, eyed the coffee in front of me, and said, "Bad night." I didn't answer. Just slid the shoebox across the table. His face didn't change much. Adam's good at that. But his hands tightened around the coffee mug until his knuckles went pale. "You found it," he said, not a question. I nodded, took a deep breath, tried to keep my voice steady. "You gonna tell me why you kept it a secret?" He rubbed his face like he was trying to scrub off whatever guilt was clinging there. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "It wasn't my story to tell, Danny." That hit harder than I expected. Wasn't his story? I almost laughed. "She's marrying me, Adam." It kind of became my story. He looked out the window, watching a truck rattle down the street like it was safer than looking at me. "It started innocent," he said. "Chris, her ex, reached out to me. Said he needed to talk. Said he had information I deserved to know." "And you believed him?" I asked, sharper than I meant. He met my eyes then, and what I saw there wasn't defensiveness. It was regret. "I didn't want to," he said. "But when a man's shaking in front of you, begging you to listen, you listen." I leaned back, felt the booth creak under my weight. What did he say? The words came out quieter than I intended. Like part of me already knew I wouldn't like the answer. Adam hesitated. Then, he said Rachel never really got over him. That when you started dating, she was still calling him, still meeting up. That even after you thought you were exclusive, she wasn't. I closed my eyes. Pain bloomed behind them, sharp and blinding. "How long?" I asked. Adam shook his head. "I don't know." He didn't either. Said it faded after a while. But not before it got messy. Messy how? My voice cracked then, a hairline fracture and a dam I'd been trying to hold together since I opened that box. Adam hesitated. "Too long." She told him, he said slowly, that she wasn't sure she picked the right brother. The words landed like a slap. Hard. Unmistakable. It felt like the air got sucked out of the room. Like the walls were inching closer. She what? I felt the blood drain from my face. She meant me. She meant she wasn't sure I was enough. She told Chris that she used to think she was supposed to end up with someone like you. Safe. Steady. But sometimes she missed the chaos. The fire. I sat there, stunned, trying to remember how to breathe. Adam reached across the table, tentative, like he thought I might flinch. "I didn't tell you because I thought she'd changed," he said. "Because you looked happy. And maybe she really was done with all that. Maybe she was choosing you every day, the way it matters. But you didn't know," I said bitterly. "No," he admitted. "I didn't know." We sat there for a while. Two brothers. Two versions of the same broken story between us. Finally, I asked the question that had been gnawing at me since I opened that box. "Is there more?" Adam looked away. Down at his coffee. Out the window. Anywhere but at me. And in that silence, I got my answer. There was more. More than I was ready for. More than I ever wanted to know. Adam didn't want to say it. I could see it, the way he kept shifting in his seat, rubbing the back of his neck, tapping his fingers against the edge of his coffee cup. He was fighting himself, fighting that old protective instinct that had kept him silent in the first place. But sometimes love isn't about shielding someone. Sometimes it's about handing them the match and trusting them to decide whether to burn it all down. Finally, he said it. Low. Careful. Like maybe if he spoke softly enough, it wouldn't hit as hard. There was one night, Adam said. After you and Rachel had been together about a year. Chris called me, panicked. Said he needed to talk. I went to meet him. Neutral place, diner out by the highway. He looked awful, like he hadn't slept in days. He paused. He told me Rachel showed up at his apartment. I felt my stomach lurch. When? I asked. Right after you started talking about moving in together, Adam said. She showed up drunk. Said she was scared. Said she wasn't sure she was ready to settle down. She tried to start something again. The world went sharp and blurry at the same time. Like being punched underwater. She cheated. I asked, forcing the words through a throat that felt too tight to breathe. Adam shook his head. Chris said no. He turned her away. Said she cried. Left after about an hour. And you believed him? Adam nodded. Yeah, Danny. I did. He looked like it tore him up just to tell me. I pressed my palms into my eyes, hard, like I could somehow push the images out of my head. Rachel, my Rachel, showing up at her ex's door while I was probably sitting at home planning a future with her. It didn't make sense. It made too much sense. I thought about all the times Rachel had pulled away during that period. All the times she said she was just tired or just busy when I wanted to talk about the next step. I thought about how she cried the night I signed the lease for our first apartment, tears she said were from happiness. I thought about how easy it was to believe her. Because I wanted to. Because it was easier than looking too closely. Adam leaned forward, elbows on the table. Danny, he said quietly, I never had proof. Just his word. I figured, if you were happy, what was the point of dredging it up? I laughed. A short, broken sound. The point, Adam, is that I wasn't building a life. I was building a lie. He flinched like I'd slapped him. We sat there in the heavy silence, two grown men realizing that sometimes love doesn't just fail you. It leaves you complicit. I stood up, threw a few bills on the table. I need to hear it from her, I said. All of it. Adam nodded, slow and grim. Like he knew the conversation I was about to have wasn't going to end in a neat little bow. Before I left, he said one more thing. She loves you, Danny. In her own way. But you gotta ask yourself, is it the kind of love you can live with? I didn't answer. Didn't trust myself to. I drove home in a daze. Watched the streets blur by like watercolor paintings left out in the rain. Rachel was already there. Curled up on the couch, wedding magazines spread out around her like some cruel joke. She looked up when I came in. Smiled. I stood there, just inside the door, watching her, taking in every detail. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear. The way she shifted to make room for me on the couch. I wondered how much of it was real. How much was reflex? She noticed something was off. Of course she did. You okay? She asked, setting a magazine aside. I crossed the room slowly. Sat down across from her, not next to her. I found something, I said. Her smile faltered. Just a fraction. What do you mean? I reached into my jacket and pulled out one of the letters. The one with Chris's handwriting. The one that said everything in black and white. I watched her face as she read it. Watched the blood drain out. Watched the walls go up. When she finished, she didn't say anything. Didn't rush to explain. She just closed her eyes, breathed in slow. I didn't sleep with him, she said, voice shaking. I swear, Danny. I was scared. I was drunk. I made a mistake, but nothing happened. Nothing? I asked, quietly. She opened her eyes. Red-rimmed. Raw. I kissed him, she whispered. That's it. I kissed him. And I hated myself for it. I sat back, feeling like a string had snapped loose inside my chest. A kiss, I repeated. She nodded. Tears slipping down now, unchecked. I wasn't ready, she said. I was terrified of being loved that much. By someone so good. I let that sit between us. Good. She'd been scared of good. Scared of being loved without having to earn it through chaos or drama or games. Rachel reached for my hand across the couch. I let her. But it felt foreign. Like shaking hands with a stranger wearing someone else's skin. I chose you, she said. Every day after that. I chose you. I didn't pull away. But I didn't squeeze back either. Because somewhere deep down, I knew. Choosing me didn't erase what almost happened. Choosing me didn't unkiss him. Choosing me didn't mean she hadn't, for one moment, wished for a different ending. I sat there, her hand in mine, feeling the weight of a future I wasn't sure I could carry anymore. And for the first time since we met, I didn't know if love was going to be enough. We didn't talk much after that. Not that night. Not the next day. Rachel gave me space, or maybe she just didn't know what to say after the truth had burned through all the air between us. I moved through the house like a ghost. Picked up things, a framed photo of us at the lake, a wedding invite mock-up, and set them down again like they might bite. Everywhere I looked, I saw it. The life we almost built. The version of the story where none of this had happened. Where I could still believe that love, real love, didn't come with conditions taped to the bottom of it. I didn't know how to breathe in this new version. 2 days later, Adam showed up. Unannounced. Like he used to do when I bombed a test in college or broke up with a girl in high school and couldn't drag myself out of bed. He didn't say much. Just held out a brown paper bag. Inside was a 6-pack of the cheap beer we used to drink on fishing trips and a gas station sandwich wrapped in greasy paper. I raised an eyebrow. He shrugged. It's tradition. I cracked a beer. He cracked one too. We sat out on the back porch, not saying much, just listening to the distant sound of a neighbor's dog barking, the wind rattling through the bare trees. Finally, Adam said, "You thinking about staying with her?" I didn't answer right away. Took a sip, let the bitterness settle. I don't know, I admitted. He nodded, like he expected that. Would you? I asked. Adam didn't even pretend to hesitate. No. It was blunt. Clean. Like tearing off a bandage. I stared at the bottle in my hand, turning it slowly. I love her, I said. The words tasted hollow. I know, he said. But sometimes love isn't the question. It's the answer to the wrong question. I frowned. Meaning? He leaned back, propping one boot against the railing. Meaning you can love someone who isn't good for you. You can love someone who's standing on a different road than you are, and no matter how hard you stretch, you'll never walk it together. I swallowed hard. She says it was just a kiss. Adam gave a small, sad smile. It's never just about the kiss, Danny. It's about what the kiss means. I hated how much sense that made. He clapped a hand on my shoulder, heavy, familiar, and then stood up. Whatever you decide, I'll back you, he said. But don't marry a version of her that only exists in your head. After he left, I sat there until the stars came out. I thought about everything we'd built. Every late-night ice cream run. Every fight about paint colors. Every lazy Sunday morning wrapped up in each other. I thought about the version of Rachel I loved. The one who chose me every day. The one who said forever like it was a promise she meant to keep. And then I thought about the version who kissed someone else when the future scared her. The version who let fear, not love, call the shots. Rachel came out onto the porch around midnight. She stood there for a second, arms wrapped around herself like she was bracing for impact. I know you're thinking about leaving, she said, voice small. I didn't correct her. Because I was. I don't blame you, she added. I'd leave me too. I looked up at her. At the woman I loved. At the stranger standing in her skin. I don't want to hate you, I said quietly. Tears filled her eyes. Then don't, she whispered. Hate what I did. Not who I am. I nodded. Because maybe that was possible. Maybe I could separate the two. But maybe I couldn't. Maybe some betrayals didn't slice clean. They lingered like splinters under the skin, invisible until you tried to hold anything tightly again. She stepped closer. I still want to marry you, she said. I closed my eyes. And for one heartbreaking second, I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe love could cover the cracks like fresh paint. But then I pictured standing up there, saying vows in front of people who thought they were watching a love story, not a salvage job. I pictured the first big fight we'd have after the wedding, and the way this would hang between us, silent and poisonous. I pictured myself 5 years from now, wondering if she missed the chaos. If she missed him. I opened my eyes, met hers, and said the hardest thing I've ever said. I can't. She didn't argue, didn't plead. She just broke, right there in front of me, sank to the porch floor, sobbing like a piece of her had been ripped out. And maybe it had. Maybe it had for both of us. I sat there beside her, close enough to let her know she wasn't alone, but not close enough to pretend we could fix this. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to let them go, even when it shatters you too. There's no manual for calling off a wedding. No neat checklist that tells you what to do when the future you ordered doesn't arrive. You just wake up the next morning in a house full of decorations you can't look at. Save the dates pinned to the fridge, flower arrangements picked out, but not yet paid for. Dreams curling at the edges like old photographs left too close to the stove. I made the calls myself. Started with the venue. Polite. Efficient. They said they were sorry to hear it. Asked if I wanted to reschedule. I said no. Then the photographer, the caterer, the florist Rachel loved because they did wildflowers, not stuffy bouquets. Each call chipped away at me, small cracks spiderwebbing under the surface. The hardest part wasn't the vendors, though. It was the people, the ones who'd believed in us. The ones who were already shopping for suits and booking flights and buying gifts off a registry full of promises that wouldn't be kept. I sent out a group message. Kept it short. Hey everyone, I'm writing to let you know the wedding is canceled. Thank you for all the love and support along the way. I appreciate your understanding as we navigate this difficult time. No details, no blame, just the quiet dignity of a door closing. Responses started trickling in. Some sympathetic, some confused, some just silent. Adam texted, "Proud of you. Call if you need anything." My mom called, cried, said she loved me no matter what. Said Rachel was sweet, but maybe sweetness wasn't the same as strength. And somehow, that broke me more than anything else. Because she was right. Rachel was sweet, beautiful, charming. But somewhere deep down, when the ground shook, she hadn't stood steady. She'd reached for the past instead of fighting for the future. A few days later, Rachel moved out. It was quiet. No screaming matches. No last-minute pleas. She packed up her things while I was at work. Left her key on the counter next to a note. "I'll always love you. I'm sorry I didn't know how to love you the right way." I read it once, then folded it into a drawer I didn't open again for a long time. The apartment felt cavernous after she left. Too many empty spaces where her life had fit into mine. I didn't sleep in my bed for weeks. Took to crashing on the couch, TV playing old sitcoms I didn't really watch. The wedding date came and went like a thundercloud that never quite broke. No rain, just heavy, suffocating air. On what would have been our wedding day, Adam showed up with a truck full of fishing gear. "Get dressed," he said. "Where are we going?" I asked. He just shrugged. "Out." We drove 2 hours into the hills, past cell service and gas stations, and anything that looked like the life I was trying to forget. Found a spot by the lake we used to visit when we were kids. Back when life was simple. Back when heartbreak was a scraped knee, not a knife under the ribs. We didn't fish much. Mostly just sat there on the dock, letting the sun bake into our skin, letting the silence stitch up places that words couldn't reach. At one point, Adam cracked open a beer, handed it to me, and said, "You did the hard thing." I shook my head. "Doesn't feel brave. Feels like losing." He took a sip. "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from something you wanted, because you know it ain't what you deserve." We sat with that for a while. Let it settle. That night, back home, I finally went into the bedroom. Stripped the bed. Washed the sheets. Opened the windows. Let the stale air out. Let the new air in. It didn't fix everything. Didn't magically erase the ache. But it was a start. I knew the healing wouldn't be fast, or linear, or clean. It would be messy, and slow. And some days it would feel like nothing had changed at all. But other days would feel like forward. And forward, even in tiny, broken steps, is enough. 6 months passed. Not all at once. It felt slower than that, like watching ice melt or paint dry, or old wounds knit themselves closed in fits and starts. The apartment changed in little ways. Rachel's throw pillows were replaced with ones I picked up at a garage sale. Her coffee mugs, the ones with the gold script and witty sayings, gave way to plain blue ones from the dollar store. The photos came down. New ones went up. Landscapes from hiking trips, sunsets, the kind of pictures you take when you're learning to live with yourself again. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. Anger burns fast. Grief settles deeper. But even grief, if you give it enough time and sunlight and space, starts to soften around the edges. One Saturday morning, I found myself walking past the park where I proposed. I almost didn't stop. Almost kept walking, like passing an old battlefield you're not sure you have the stomach to look at again. But something, maybe stubbornness, maybe hope, made me turn in. It was the same. Of course it was. Kids shrieking on the swings. Dogs bounding after tennis balls. The scent of kettle corn from the farmer's market across the street. Life, oblivious to my particular heartbreak. I sat on the same bench where she'd said yes. Where, for one perfect second, I thought forever was a promise we could keep. And for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness. I just felt gratitude. Gratitude that I got to love someone that much. Gratitude that I learned I deserved to be chosen without hesitation. Gratitude that I didn't settle for less. I thought about what Adam said that day on the dock. about how sometimes walking away from what you wanted is the bravest thing you can do. And sitting there, with the sun warm on my face and the smell of popcorn in the air, I realized something. I hadn't lost everything. I lost a version of the life I thought I wanted. But in doing so, I made space for the life I deserved. The life that hadn't found me yet, but would. I didn't know when, or who, or how, but I knew it would be built differently this time. Not on fear, not on almosts, not on the hope that love could outrun broken trust. It would be built slow, solid, on ground that didn't shift the moment the weather turned. I stood up from that bench, brushed the dust off my jeans, and walked home without looking back. Because closure isn't about tying everything up neatly. It's about knowing you can live with the knots. It's about choosing peace over answers. It's about forgiving yourself for believing and forgiving them for not living up to it. That night, I sat out on my little balcony, beer in hand, watching the city lights blink to life one by one. I thought about Rachel, about how, somewhere out there, she was probably trying to find her own way too. And I hoped she would. Truly. Because whatever mistakes she made, whatever cracks split the foundation we tried to build, I didn't want bitterness to be the last thing tying us together. I wanted to leave that story behind with grace, not with resentment. And when the right person came along, the person who didn't run when things got heavy, who didn't reach backward when the future asked for both hands, I'd be ready. No fear, no ghosts, just open hands, ready to build something real, ready for home.